Greetings and salutations, gamers. Welcome to Cast Co-op, the podcast in which three hosts from three shows cast together. I am one of your hosts, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, joined by Mr. Joseph Moran, host of The Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast. Joseph Moran, how are you, sir?
I was really looking forward to you slinging an insult my way, and I'm surprised. I got a greeting. Very strange. I'm doing fantastic, though. It's been a great day. How about you?
I'm doing great. We've got plenty of things to talk to in this episode, but now we must introduce the big brother of the group, Mr. Ainsley Bowden of Seasoned Gaming, who loves when I call him Ainsley. Mr. Bowden, how are you, sir? Force your power.
Can I stop being the big brother at some point?
No, not as long as you're the responsible one, man.
First of all, before we get started, what's going on, everyone? But before we get started, we need to talk about this poll we ran because I feel like it's very important to set the mood.
That's right.
And probably why Joe put on the glasses to make sure he can see it properly. So for anyone viewing this, here's the poll we ran of who's actually the worst. And you can see that, Big Brother's performing quite well. Team A-team, hashtag A-team.
I see. The thing about these results, I knew that Joe was the worst. I'm glad the rest of everybody else seems to know it. And mind you, we did count the legal votes. Joe is the worst.
This was recounted multiple times.
Here's
the thing.
We took it to court. It worked out. It's fair.
No, I don't think so. Because, gang, if you look at this, and they won't show the photo that I have, the evidence that's clear as day. It's strange because the night before, Luke was winning. It was night and day. It was.
Does that image say final results under it?
It doesn't matter what it says below. Look at the poll. 100% Luke. And then you tell me I wake up and I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
Real talk.
It's rigged. This whole thing's rigged.
You can't only count the ones you like.
No, that's not how it works. That's exactly. Just my lawyers are going to talk to yours.
Who voted for Ames?
That's true.
What I want to know.
I got nearly 30%, mind you. Thank you.
Who's sitting at their computer like, Porsche Power? He's the worst.
I'm proud I got nearly 30%. I'm going to work harder.
Yeah. Oh, goodness, guys. It is good to have you all here for another Cast Co-op episode 2. Very appreciative for all of you who checked out episode 1.
Yes.
We were impressed, pleased, proud, and any other number of adjectives to go with that. It was a joy to see you guys in the comments section offering positive words of encouragement to us. We really appreciate it. We will be referencing that comment section each episode from the episode prior. So if you drop questions or thoughts on things that we've said in the episode, we will do our best to bring those up in the following episode to acknowledge them. So feel free to engage with us in the comment section as well. This week, though, boys, we've got quite a bit happening courtesy of PlayStation. It often feels like we have Xbox topics of late. It seems like Game Pass ends up in the news, rightfully so, as that has been prevalent news. But PlayStation and the responses that they may need to bring through the course of 2021 is part of our topic for this week. Let's start with the idea that right now PlayStation headquarters is completely on fire and they're dead. They're dead.
That's true.
I don't know how they recover.
Yes, no way. There's no way the studio with Horizon Zero Dawn, Ratchet and Clank, and God of War could possibly recover from all of this terrible stuff that's happening.
Gents, what I'm hearing is those IPs have been sold. They've been acquired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud because it's kind of
dude, insider knowledge.
Who's buying them?
Unrelated, guys. No.
I can't say anymore.
Let me just talk to the audience. Hey, separate from what he just said, you guys might want to start looking at Amazon Luna. I hear it's going places. God of War. Yeah, right.
I got my subscription emailed about it today, and this is not a joke or planned. I forgot I subscribed to it.
Shut up. You subscribed to it.
I subscribed to it. I pay for it. I haven't played it.
Wow.
I thought your co-host on Season Gaming, Dan, was crazy for having Anthem currency, but here we are.
Dan subscribes to Luna, has the controller, and has played it.
It's now making sense. Everything's lining up. You two are made for each other.
Right.
Anthem currency on one end.
Harder. I'm getting above 30%, boys.
Does now, Ains, here's the question. If you get a Luna controller, does it come with a Konami code on the back?
That's how you know
Isn't
you're
that
a real
what the
gamer.
Stadia ones did?
Yep.
Yeah.
What, are you serious? I didn't know that.
That's a real thing. Yeah. Remember when Stadia was going to be a thing for like a week and a half?
Yeah.
And God bless the amazing content creators out there that really tried to pull shows together to cover Stadia. Like really and truly, I mean this as a content creator. I saw several people around our community that like had Stadia casts.
Yeah.
Oh man, that had to hurt because what a promising technology that just was not supported.
That's right.
Goodness.
Just like PlayStation, now they're dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You brought us back. They're on.
We got to get back on topic. I mean, come on.
Cast Co-op will never be on topic. It's our thing. Joseph Moran, you host the Trophy Room. As of the time of this recording, you recorded an episode last night. Talk me through some of the bullet points of what's going through PlayStation's mind right now, and then we'll jump in and tag along.
It's seemingly like nothing. It seems like it's like a blank, just whatever you think's happening is happening, right? Like I have no clue if, Jim Ryan, the CEO of PlayStation, is the best poker player who's just keeping the cards that close to the chest, not reacting, not blinking, not even staring, it seems, or they're truly this clueless as to who and what their competition truly is. We talked briefly about, or we talked in length about how these companies communicate last episode, and it seems like it's just now a failure to communicate at all with PlayStation. And honestly, it is worrying as a PlayStation gamer, as a person that covers the platform, because you are looking at all these amazing moves that Microsoft is doing, and PlayStation just being silent or just doing some forward thinking moves, like, getting rid of the PS3, Vita, and PSP stores, though old and though practically no one uses them.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
So let's run through the context.
Sure,
here.
Please.
In the past 2 weeks or say since the last episode, and Ains, keep me honest here as I go, we've got the PlayStation store shutting down older legacy titles of PSP, Vita, and PlayStation 3. We've got the news that previous PlayStation exclusive MLB The Show is not only going to be on Xbox, which we had found out already, but is going to be day and date into Game Pass.
Yep.
We heard news that E3 will be returning in a unique form, and Xbox and Nintendo are both referenced within the wording there, so we know they'll have a representation there. Yeah. And there is something else that's gone on recently. As games are going to Game Pass day and date, they're also being smart delivered. Meanwhile, the remotely comparable service PlayStation Now, games are PlayStation 4 specific and not being upgraded to their PS5 counterparts.
Yes. And then you have Deathloop was delayed today.
That's right.
And obviously Jeff Grubb coming out and saying that Kojima, who is looked at as a PlayStation icon, is working to publish his next game with Xbox.
Right. And that's a lot. That's a lot.
And all PlayStation has announced that I've seen, Joe, you keep me honest because you know better than me sometimes on the PlayStation stuff, is they announced Abandoned, which is a game no one ever heard of before, and it's from a studio that's never made a game before.
Yeah. And that was or people thought that was Kojima's next game. Somehow.
It sounds like it could be a Kojima game, though.
Yeah. And that's when we got the Jeff Grubb coming out and saying, I don't know why y'all think of that, because he's working with Xbox. And it's just like
something they would have known if they had heard of XEP 2 weeks ago. Just want to throw that out there.
God damn it.
So frustrated by that. I literally asked him about Kojima. He's like, yeah.
Well, you should have threw it over to Kotaku. Nonetheless.
Or Season Gaming.
Or Season Gaming.
Kotaku. What are we talking about?
You'd think Season Gaming would listen to my show, but then
I do listen to your show, and I listen to Trophy Room, and I listen to a lot of shows, but I listen to them less nowadays because I don't drive anywhere anymore.
That's right. That's true.
That's
No,
that's the
I make up
honest
lies
truth.
to tell my friends too, Ains. It's fine.
No, but honest to God, like I have no idea. I don't think anybody
That's
knows.
it. That's it.
Thank you.
I'm done.
I don't
Joe,
think
go
anybody.
ahead.
I don't think anybody really knows what's going on there, except people with those inside sources. But even those people are staying very, very quiet. So it's worrying as someone who you just bought a $500 piece of tech. You're now seeing the competition make some really awesome forward-thinking decisions and moves, and it just seems like they're all over the map. And it's kind of like watching a high school team go up against the NBA greats. They're just all running all over the court, and PlayStation just has their hands in their pockets. It's frustrating. It really is.
Let me ask you guys this, because we've seen PlayStation are masters, at least in the past, of building hype. They are experts at marketing and building hype among their fan base. So in my view, and again, we have to keep context here in that what the things we're talking about, right? The mass market is not paying attention to.
Right.
We're talking about this community that we're within, the hardcore, less than 1%. So the scale at which this matters on a global level, I don't know. You can't really measure it. But to us, it feels measurable. It feels impactful. The question I want to ask is, why would Sony not? I think they could quell nearly all of this unease from the PlayStation community by simply coming out and having a new tease for like Forbidden West. I mean, literally, that would get people so hyped because they know how the quality of the game is. They know it's coming. They don't even have to say a release date. Just say, hey, reminder, Forbidden West is coming. Here's some of what you can expect. Show us some new footage, 30 seconds. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Fans would go bonkers. Yeah. And I think that would take that. It would relieve a little of that unease and kind of remind people PlayStation makes fantastic games. The games are coming. We're just in a little bit of a lull right now. Be patient. What do you think that's true or no?
Yes, no, I fully agree with you. PlayStation's bread and butter is selling the future. That's just what they do. That has been their strategy. They did that with Greatness Awaits back on the PS3, and it took a while to truly click. And they needed to because they had to put out those games. But once their top tier exclusive games started showing up, people are buying PlayStation 5s right now for the next Final Fantasy. They're buying it for God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
They're buying it for the games that are not out yet that they're looking forward to because they're promised to be coming to this slate of systems. And that's what PlayStation does. And they've not shown any inclination to change their strategy. And you can make a comfortable argument. Why would they if they're top of the market? If they're top of the market, outpacing their nearest competitor 2-1, if they're putting in the work to get a fantastic single player games and people are buying them on namesake alone, why would you change strategies? Microsoft's hand in strategy change was forced by way of their third place very poor showing out the gate with the Xbox One, which is admittedly recovered. We talked about that, and we will continue to most likely for some time. But I very much think that Sony does need to throw a response out there somehow, some way, to remind players that they are in the running and that they are still working and doing the things that we are sure they're doing, but that there's not evidence of at the moment. PlayStation should remember that they are not Nintendo. They are, in my opinion, the best game makers in the first party industry right now, but they're not Nintendo, and Nintendo trades in nostalgia. PlayStation is almost to that point, but not quite. So they need to keep the hardcore in mind so that these news stories are not constantly Game Pass takes away exclusive. This game goes to Game Pass. Xbox buys this studio. It's constantly good news for Xbox right now. The one bad news for Xbox was when they raised PlayStation or Xbox Live Gold and then nixed it 9 hours later. Not even a 24-hour news cycle and it was out. So they need some goodwill.
And we won't talk about that Twitch show.
Which was Twitch, by the way. That's the weirdest thing.
I know. But I just don't want to talk about it.
For Xbox.
Yeah. It pains me to talk about it. So
here's the thing. I think Sony has tried to have those announcements. Like, I honestly think when they're, I think it was like around the time Xbox bought or the deal went through with Bethesda, PlayStation's like, take a look at our headset. Take a look at the future of VR. This is a blog post that just has the Sony symbol, and then the week after that's like, look at these controllers. Aren't these wild? After Xbox pulls some type of move, and then you have like I think Jade Raymond announcement was around the week after Xbox bought Bethesda. So like you see that PlayStation tries to take attention away by just throwing these random articles out there or random blog posts. But like I like what Kyle said on the Trophy Room plug, that he's like, but how many people are actually reading those blog posts?
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you.
6 or 7 people. They're very upset.
At least 9.
Yeah, I can tell you from a site management standpoint, they don't hit hard at all.
Yeah. So it's just it is. I think it's Sony did not calculate this type of competition on the Xbox side in terms of like usually when you put out a console out there, the first year is always a little slow. You let your launch lineup kind of take a lot of the highlight or spotlight, your third party deals that you've made, and you usually it's kind of like mums the word until E3, and then the hype cycle for the holiday games come out. That's usually it, and so that's what kind of PlayStation's doing. They're just playing by the rule book that's been passed down from literally generation to generation, and Xbox is like, we can't do that because we don't have that first party lineup that PlayStation does. We're building it. It's happening, but we need to be more agile. And I think that's what you see the social teams and just Xbox in general as of late, just throwing up the body punches.
I was just going to make a boxing reference. It's the equivalent of a championship boxer underestimating his opponent and walking into a ring and getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in front of our eyes.
It
doesn't mean the champ's going to fall. It doesn't mean the champ's dead. It just means that he's waking up right now. Like, didn't expect that level of aggression out of the gate.
Yeah.
It's odd because they had to learn this lesson with the Xbox 360, and then the PlayStation 3 got punched in the mouth.
Always cycles, man.
It always cycles, and it's interesting because you can say these things nonstop, but really it's the losing the fight that forces change, and that is the element that I think plays a big part. Now, I wonder if perhaps some of the lack of agility in terms of social media presence comes from being a Japanese company versus an American company. Obviously, we have our own perspectives being in America, but we're watching Xbox respond with lots of memes, with lots of jokes here and there. Sony doesn't do nearly that, and we covered that in our last episode. Do you think that's related at all?
No, those are two different social media strategies, both of which are effective in like, what do you want? Like Xbox is purely it's engagement driven. That's what they're going for, as where Sony is more of the marketing approach, company A, B, and C, or Sony scouting out studios that they want to highlight and then paying money for. Mm-hmm. That's what it seems like Sony's more about the main, like social media lead, where their personalities really lie in the, PlayStation UK type of like the sub Twitter stuff.
I was going to say it does, whether or not the Japanese kind of foundation of Sony plays a role in that or not, it does feel, and I think we talked about this before, or at least you and I did, maybe Luke on Bigcast plug. But it does feel like Phil Spencer led Xbox is more of a fan-friendly company, right? Whereas Jim Ryan led PlayStation feels more like a corporate entity. Sure. Whether or not that holds any validity, it's just how it feels to the consumer. And it does feel different from when Sean Layden ran that division. And Sean Layden, a very different type of person than Jim Ryan. So that's really not too surprising. I mean, direction comes from the top. But you can almost sense it.
Yeah.
Well, like, when you add to the way that PlayStation's reacting or not reacting, I guess in these cases, to the news, and now we've got E3 coming out. The ESA saying that the E3 2021 is going to go ahead as an online only event, and there will be presence. There will be a presence by companies like Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Warner Brothers, Koch Media. I don't know.
Got him.
It gets me every time, but it's Deep Silver.
He's always
right?
got cock on the mind.
Oh,
This
jeez.
guy.
But
What
that's
a
like Deep
pervert.
Silver. Oh goodness. Nonetheless,
See, look,
that's
he
a lot
turned
of
red.
representation.
He's
I
turning
am
red.
turning red. I am turning red. So that's a lot of presence there for a lot of big companies. Of course, you have EA who opted out a while ago, but they do their own side gig, which is just weird every year.
I'm just glad I don't have to effing go to the thing because
Right?
it was a complete waste of time in 2019.
It's been, they've had bad. EA has not done a good
It
job.
was awful.
That said, PlayStation's not there.
Yeah.
They've got a lot that they need to respond to, and they don't always need to be one-to-one responses. I don't need the direct response to Game Pass in the moment, right here, right now. But they will be absent from the all eyes on industry element that we know of at this moment. Are we expecting them to do a showcase of their own in the same window of time? They did something kind of like that last year, but they also avoided that 2-3 week window. What are you thinking there? What let me rephrase. Not what are you thinking? What are they thinking right now? Ains, go to you first.
Yeah, I think they will. Whether or not it's like that same week, I don't think really Sony cares about that. I think they will have an event somewhere in the early June to early July timeframe, maybe a 45-minute to an hour show that will cover the future of what people can expect from the PS5. Let me say it this way. If they don't do that, I would be shocked because I think it's an expectation from gamers, and this goes back on the history of people like us in this industry. It's an expectation, E3 or not, that over the summer, we're going to get some big presentations and some big games and some big shows, and we're going to understand the direction of where that company's going in the fall. It would be a massive blunder, PR blunder, I should say. I don't know about a company blunder for PlayStation not to do that. So I do think they will. I do think they'll do what I mentioned earlier, where we're going to see some footage of things like Forbidden West, other games like that, as well as a tease or two of upcoming first-party games, potentially some Ragnarok, more tease, whatever that looks like, something new we haven't seen before, because they need to drive excitement. That's what we're talking about. And there's no way that with everything going on that we're talking about, which, remember, guys, it's already, April 8th as we're recording this? So this E3 is only 2 months away. It's not far. So over the next quarter, say 3 months, Sony absolutely, or PlayStation, I guess, absolutely has to do a show to show what people have bought into with the PS5, as you guys alluded to. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I have the unpopular opinion of
Boo,
E3. Boo. E3 sucks. Luke sucks. E3 is kind of irrelevant at this point. You don't need it. Doesn't need to happen. Doesn't need to exist at this point. We take a look at what PlayStation could achieve on their own presence, Microsoft's own presence, Nintendo's own presence. They could snap their fingers, have, look, PlayStation, when they showed the Death Stranding trailer on Twitch, had over 100,000 people. And that was announced, I think, the day before. They could just generate an audience within a blink of an eye. So they don't need E3. E3 needs them. So yeah, I think we're going to get something from PlayStation in the summer. It's just not going to be at E3 because it just doesn't carry the weight. I think the only thing E3 does, and I think Jeff Keighley does as well, is kind of organize this set of, hey, this is where everybody's going to be having their show. You can have your show here, there, wherever you want it, but you at least have an idea where the other companies are going in the summer months. So that's what I think PlayStation is going to do. I think they're going to do the Summer Game Fest route rather than E3 route, because it's just unneeded. Why spend millions of dollars on a guy that's going to play the flute on stage. You know, you don't need that.
That was such a weird show.
So weird.
Such a weird show
Yeah.
for a great game. Weird show.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think they need it. I think E3 is kind of irrelevant at this point. And every time I say that, everybody's like, "No, Joe, please." But I like seeing my friends. It's like, I get it, and that's why I love PAX. But E3 is just, it's unnecessary.
I've been to one E3 and a Fan Fest at the same time, and Fan Fest was awesome, and E3 was meh at best. All that to say, I kind of agree with you in the idea that Sony and Keighley would link up somehow, some way. They seem to have a very good working relationship over the course of the past few years. I mean, and I don't mean like the whole like, oh, Keighley goes for Sony, like whatever, they pay him, deal with it.
You know, what's he going to do with the Kojima news, man?
Gosh.
Has anyone checked on him? Is he okay?
He's probably hurting. But no, I mean, like, I would imagine the Sony and Keighley ties are strong. Sony delivers on great games regularly, so I don't think anybody needs to worry. I think that Sony needs to be conscious, though, of how much goodwill Microsoft continues to generate amongst the hardcore, because it is the hardcore fans, the enthusiasts, and the journalists that tend to write the narrative for the public, at least in the adult ages, I should say, not for younger audiences like Nintendo markets to and whatnot. Am I off base on that?
No, but even there, it's in all three of those entities are all either questionable or questioning at best PlayStation moves, or just straight up negative. We're starting to see articles. You know, there was one on GameSpot. It was like, I used to be a PlayStation kid, now I'm an X-Bro, or whatever that article was. Like,
I've seen Push Square publish things questioning. So
yes,
yeah,
and so Sony can't be ignorant to that. But it is something to consider of what the next few weeks or months hold, because Sony has to say something, anything at this point, because we're at the, how can I say this? We're at this point where, you're right, Luke, the hardcore gamers are the ones that are going to tell their friends what box to buy. And even as a Sony person, I would say, hey, if you like your PlayStation exclusives, like your Last of Us or whatever, you choose PlayStation. But anytime other than that, you have to choose Xbox. The value is just stupid. And it's like, that has to be worrying. Even as a Sony guy, I prefer playing my games on PlayStation. I have the hot take that the DualSense is just a better controller than this.
I think you meant to say garbage take, but go ahead. You muted yourself because you know you can't defend the DualSense. I mean, there's just no way to do it.
But you know what? And
you picked up the wrong mic. It switched mics on you.
You tried. Oh, it did?
Yeah.
It did. But I'm going to jump in while you are thinking it and fixing that, Joe. There's a lot that's happening at the moment where PlayStation is absent to the conversation. And I'm thinking about Game Pass, and I'm thinking about Outriders. Outriders, since we last had Cast Co-op, has exploded in popularity, in large part due to Game Pass, in large part likely because in April there's not a ton to play, and in large part because the game is simply has a very fun loop for those people who really enjoyed the Destinies, the Anthems, et cetera, et cetera. Joe, mic check, say hi.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
You sound great, buddy.
Good.
Sound great. So to follow Outriders with the MLB The Show day and date in is a big win as well. And the hitback, or the optics of a hitback, I sincerely doubt that PlayStation said, okay, to respond to Outriders, what we're going to do is put Marvel's Avengers and what's the other one? Borderlands 3 on PlayStation Now. I doubt it was intentionally meant to be that way, but it will optically look like that to a lot of people, that they responded with Borderlands 3 and Avengers coming to their service, PlayStation Now. And then for the articles to say, but these are the PlayStation 4 versions. They're not going to get upscaled to the PlayStation 5 versions. By the way, PlayStation Now has hundreds of more games, but they don't run that well, and things aren't as great there. Those caveats to end up in so many articles and in so many social spaces, I think did more harm than good. If Avengers was your response to an Outriders success, that's bad. With the caveat, once again, that maybe it wasn't meant to be a response. Maybe it was just timed out to be that way, but optically, not a good look.
Yeah.
Joe, your mic's back and working. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, you hear me all good?
You sound great, bud.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you're 110% right. And if I could lean this conversation as to what I kind of wanted to talk about is the strategies, it seems, out of Xbox and PlayStation, or at least what we assume their approaches are. Because I think Sony thought that their competition was Xbox when their competition is Game Pass. Xbox, I think, did a really great job of thinking you wanted this Series X, but really, really pushing Game Pass on the consumer and at least getting it out there of what this thing is and what it does and marketing it alongside the Xbox Series X and S. And now seeing Microsoft being able to make these big moves we saw with Outriders, and then with Sony's own studio, San Diego studio, with MLB The Show 21, putting those games day and date on Game Pass. Where do you see Game Pass going in the next few months, or even the next year or two?
Yeah, so I've talked about that a lot. I know we talked about it on our last show as well, a little bit. But, the thing I keep saying, and I know other people are as well, is this is only the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it seems weird and it feels weird because it hasn't been done before. We haven't had a service like this in the industry. We've all grown up, especially me being the old dude, growing up with buying our console, buying our games, and moving to a new generation and rebuying everything. It's just how it was. The concept of Game Pass itself and the mental change for 60, 70, or hell, if you're in Europe, $90 games, launching into a service that you pay at most $15 a month for, at most, you don't have to pay that, there's cheaper ways to get it, is new, and it's surprising. And it's a shift in the industry that people are not mentally used to yet. It's the exact same thing we went through with movies, the exact same thing we went through with music. And I asked this question, I think on Bitcast, Joe, to the group, but I said, when's the last time, not when you purchased a CD, but when's the last time you bought an album, a music album, digitally?
I can't think of a time.
And I think that's the response most people would give, because they either have Spotify or they have Prime, music or whatever you use, but it's a service.
Yeah. And
you just expect any new album that releases to be on that service. It's an expectation.
So do you think, Ains, because the rumors of Battlefield,
I was just going to bring that up.
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say Outriders and MLB are the start. And people should get in their mind now that this is these aren't one-offs, and they're only going to get bigger. So when I saw the rumor, it's unverified, so let's qualify it. Right. But I know Luke and I talked about this, is that this makes a lot of sense, and I could absolutely 100% see Battlefield 6 launching on Game Pass for a number of reasons. But without getting into those specific reasons, AAA games from third-party publishers are going to launch in Game Pass, and it's going to be a regular thing. Just get used to the idea. It's going to happen, and it'll happen more and more as time goes on. And the strategy around something like Battlefield, I was going to ask your guys' thoughts on, because Joe, if we were talking about PlayStation taking over Call of Duty a few years back with the PS4 gen, it's been a big boon for them. They have exclusive modes or skins, whatever it may be, every year. And it also, the Pro League was played on PS4s. There's just a lot of tie-in to PlayStation for Call of Duty now.
Yeah.
But what we were talking about was it makes a lot of sense for Xbox to come back situation by situation by situation, depending on the marketing, to say, okay, if we can secure Battlefield on Game Pass, you then have PlayStation where you can buy Call of Duty, and people will, millions will, of course, for $70. But on Xbox, you get Halo and you get Battlefield 6 at launch as part of your subscription. You don't even have to buy them. And if you're one of those people that's sitting out there with limited money, thinking, wow, I can play Halo and Battlefield for $15 or free, if you want to get into the mental mind games that services play with you, how do you beat that from a sales perspective? I don't know how Sony competes there.
I don't know how they do either. And I'm thinking, what's the marketing there? If they're able to get a Battlefield 6, which would be a good move, I think, for Battlefield and for Game Pass. Really and truly, I do. They're returning back after disappointing Battlefield 5. I love that game. It's fantastic. But it did not land the way they wanted to, right?
It's not that great.
That's fundamentally wrong. But okay.
I like games, man. We should just do a show together,
From the worst in the group, the voted worst in the group. We're going to listen to that. That's ridiculous. All right.
It was rigged. We all know it's rigged.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you're gonna trust the Dominion Twitter votes? No, not me.
You better be careful.
You and you trusting your numbers.
Exactly. Come on.
Oh gosh. So let me go back to my point. If Battlefield is secured into Game Pass, which again would be a very good move for both EA and for Game Pass to do some sort of marketing conversation there, and they're able to time the release properly with enough distance from Halo Infinite, and then they combine that marketing with the idea that in your Game Pass you get Battlefield 5, Halo Infinite, Fortnite because it's free to play, Destiny 2 is in there, Outriders is in there, and they're able to hit some of the heavy hitter shooter cool dude bro games that are relevant to the youths, to the young people. That is a big selling point.
The Joes of the world, as I call them.
Yeah, the Josephs, exactly. That's a really good marketing strategy. And you could do the exact same thing with different genres of games. Right now, they've got RTS games on lock with Game Pass for PC. There are so many incredible RTS games. They don't really need to market it because it's a niche group, but they could do that genre by genre and have a marketing slate for each one. And the shooter one would include Battlefield. Yeah. But the racing one, how many great Forza games are there? Yeah. And then you got the EA slate of Need for Speed, which I'm sure 7 or 8 people will be excited about.
I think sports, and I know we talked about this too offline, but I think sports is an obvious huge win here, an obvious one. Because Joe, get your thoughts on this too, is sports games.
No sports.
No, but I mean the money from sports games is made on the Ultimate Team modes, right? The modes where you're buying extra stuff in the game.
Yeah.
What you need to do that is you need more people playing the game. The fastest way in the market today to get people playing your game is Game Pass.
And if you got FIFA in there, because FIFA Ultimate Team would be the biggest one.
Huge.
Madden launched into Game Pass pretty quickly after.
I think 6 months.
Yeah, it was fairly quick, and I would imagine that's going to get faster going forward. They've got MLB The Show now, so they've got baseball, they've got football, soccer, hockey. You'd have to wonder. I know NBA 2K has made appearances into Game Pass. I don't know if it's still there right now, but it's been
I think
in and out of
20 is. I don't know about 21.
Is it? Nonetheless, Xbox has become the place for sports games just by adding EA Play in there. They become the place for RPGs as they've acquired Obsidian, Bethesda, In Exile. I mean, it's just wild to me that they've been adding all this value, and some of it is unbeknownst to the casual user. And many people will stick to their platform of choice and pay that $70 per game. But the value proposition, if I'm a parent, if I'm a college student, if I'm somebody who's just trying to make ends meet, as so many of us are,
what about someone's grandma? Aren't they going to get confused?
First of all, the grandmas are going to get really confused. The S, the X. What if she buys a 4 instead of a 5? Joe?
You can see the X's and S's just sitting on shelves because people don't know what to buy.
Dude, I don't know which one, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, nobody touches them.
They can't sell them. They can't sell them.
I think the sports game. I don't know sports. I don't care for them one bit. I do understand why MLB wants MLB The Show on Game Pass.
Of course.
Like, that sport is in decline. They want as many people to play it, get into the sport, get into that game as possible. They feel like they have to keep up that ground. Whereas, is Madden going to be day and date on Game Pass? It very well. I mean, at this point, who knows? It's anybody's ball game for real now. But I still think.
Oh, you made a sports joke.
See, thank you. I'm with it, dude. But I do think, yeah, that 6-month lap. I think the day one sales are still important for something like a FIFA or a Madden, where they make billions of dollars. I think those I think like the way we see AAA releases is some of them will be, day and date on Game Pass. The ones that are the staple, like I don't know when we'll see a Call of Duty on a Game Pass. Maybe when Hell freezes over, but who knows? Maybe it's this year and it's egg on my face. But like, those stapled franchises don't need to do it, because those people, those devout fans, are going to go out there and buy the Maddens, buy the FIFAs. And the people that are going to sit on the fence that would usually wait a year or wait a couple of years, well, when you have Game Pass, you're like, oh fuck, I'll play the new Madden right now. And that's the rest of the herd that you're getting in there. So to me, I see the Spotify, in the future, all games are going to have the streaming element, but like with an asterisk. I see it, but it kind of like have glaucoma. It's not like working.
Glaucoma.
I knew I messed that up. You know what I mean? It's fuzzy. I see it. The picture's there. I just don't see it complete yet, but it's happening.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm a little in between there, because that's where I've been in that mindset, the same mindset. But I will tell you that they're starting to challenge my thinking, and I think we probably need to start thinking more progressively about what Game Pass is going to deliver day and date. I really do. I would not be surprised to see bigger titles that we traditionally think they need sales on arriving on Game Pass, just because of what we said. A lot of these games make most of their money from in-game transactions, not the game sale. And if you can suddenly go from, even though you may sell 4 million copies on Xbox on day one, if you can translate that, simple math, right? Yeah. Instead of 4 million, you now get 10 million playing it. And that's going to give you a 20% boost on in-game transactions. Over the long haul, that's a bigger profit margin than your 4 million in sales. You have a higher ROI, sign the deal. It's
so my question to you, because PlayStation's route is just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We made $20 billion with a B last year without a Game Pass service. Things look great right now. All things considering, even with them not talking about literally anything, PlayStations are still hard to find. We got this question in through the Trophy Room plug this week, where someone was just like, "How do we get PlayStation to show up? Because PlayStation 5s are going to continue to sell. So like, how do we get? Do we have to have a Snyder Cut like hashtag? What do we have to do?"
That's the Nintendo problem too.
It's like, the only way you do it is by hurting their paycheck, by hurting their wallet, and not buying a PS5 or not buying your third-party games on PS5. That's how you do it. That's how you hurt them. That's the only way I feel like a company that size is going to matter. Do you see that, like, that the standard model work for PlayStation in the long run?
Well, that brings the... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go for it.
Well, that brings the question that Ains was posing to us in our notes previously. He was talking about, what are the long-term changes to approaching game purchases thanks to Game Pass? Will Game Pass change the way people buy games? And that, I rest assured, Sony is looking very closely at Square Enix and People Can Fly with what the Outriders sales are doing right now. And People Can Fly are watching very closely at engagement numbers. And then Square Enix, they're curious now. All right, we've, as publishers, flubbed very badly with Avengers. Outriders is going nuts. Is it going nuts because of Game Pass? Is it going nuts because of its April? Is it going nuts on certain platforms versus others? I mean, are PlayStation players buying this game, or are Xbox players buying this game? There's no microtransactions to be had, but people are certainly playing this game. So that's going to change and modify the conversation. It is a cold day in hell, as you said, when Call of Duty ends up in Game Pass. But games like this set the table for that kind of thing. Activision has historically not played well with Xbox in the last 8 years or so. They've been very Sony centric and a lot of partnerships there, and that you go where the money is. Games like this and the way that people buy games right now, will greatly affect how the top dogs apply, put their games onto different services and what they're comfortable doing. Ains, you said it was changing your mind, and they were changing the way you were thinking about games, going day and date in there. Mm-hmm. What about buying games?
People buying games or Xbox buying games for the service?
Either or. I suppose your bigger thesis of the purchasing of games is going to change because of Game Pass.
Absolutely.
So take me there.
In my mind, anyway, I think the simple proposition, like I said earlier, right, there's a long tail to changing mindsets, especially in an industry where people have, like myself even, right? I still buy physical games. I still like having a collection. We have decades of collecting and buying things, but look at the digital penetration. Start there. Look at the shift to digital over the last 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it may be, right? It's gone from, teens to 20s to 30s to 40s. And in some cases, it's above half now, right? That's a mental shift. It takes time. And what I'm saying is that this subscription model, now it's a little different in the gaming space because it's one platform. Whereas, for instance, when you subscribe to Spotify, doesn't matter what artist or publisher or whatever makes the music, you're getting the music, right? For the most part. Yeah. Whereas Xbox is a single platform or publisher per se. But I think that as that mindset starts to shift and more and more people realize that basically Game Pass, for just lack of a better analogy, is the equivalent to something like a Netflix, something like a Spotify for games. We've already seen that their subscriber numbers are escalating quickly, right? We've seen the engagement numbers escalating quickly. And we know, everyone knows in the world, that Xbox is very serious about investments, and Microsoft is investing in the Xbox brand more than ever for the future. So what I see there, in my mind, is this continued large-scale investment that's only going to grow to get more and more content into Game Pass from third-party publishers such as MLB and Outriders. And I think when I say I'm surprised at the rate of escalation. Game Pass has been a thing for going on 4 years or so. I think it was like late 2017. But really, a little slow burn at the start. We talked about this, right? But you can see its escalation now. And it's like a snowball rolling downhill. Just like Netflix was, same thing. And as I think we discussed before too, and I know I keep saying that, so I apologize. Netflix just invested, right or wrong, we don't know how it's going to turn around. They just invested $450 million in 2 movies, the Knives Out sequels, right, with Daniel Craig.
Fantastic.
$450 million in 2 movies. And the analysts who know Netflix and study this said it's a drop in the bucket. That's it. It's just what they have to do to compete. And I see Xbox going that route. So when we say things like Call of Duty, where they make billions of dollars every year, right? Activision does. That's probably the example that's way out here in the future, right? Way out there. But my point is, Outriders is a relatively small kind of AA to AAA release. It's borderline, right? MLB, it's interesting because it's PlayStation developed. It's not a huge seller per se, but my point being is that those are going to get bigger. You're going to start to see Battlefield 6s. You're going to start to see these sports games. You're going to start to see new IPs from publishers like Square Enix, the Capcoms, the Take-Twos, Warner Brothers, that will be day and date with Xbox because they can go to a publisher and say, hey, not only will we give you, I'm making this up, but not only will we give you $20 million out of the gate to put this in Game Pass on day and date, but we've got 25 million subscribers, and we know that 70% of them will play your game on day one. What you can't compete with that. Mm-hmm. How do you compete with that? You can say, well, the game might have sold 1 million copies on day one. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to 20 and 25, 30, 35, 40 million people playing your game at launch. Yeah. So that's a long-winded answer. I'm sorry, but it's just, this vision of where it's going has already been tracked. It's been tracked in movies, it's been tracked in music, and it's tracking the exact same way in games. It's just that we're on the early part of the tail. So when people say, I can't see this happening, all you have to do is look at other industries.
It starts maybe what you're saying is like, and I heard this from somewhere. I wish I could give them credit. It seems like it's it's going to be more attractive to say, put my game on Game Pass than whatever marketing deal Sony is going to walk up to you with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we've seen publishers, now they're smaller games, they're indie games, but we've seen the developers and publishers say that. We don't even have to do the marketing. Game Pass sells itself. You're in a
big
service.
company like EA deciding to link up with Game Pass Ultimate. They literally nixed their own subscription service and said, this is better. EA did that. That's big.
Yeah. And that's my point, right? It's like, okay, our marketing budget is 200 million. Again, numbers. 200 million, right? We had 40 million allocated for this big game. And we expected to sell 3 million in the first 3 weeks, whatever the projections are, right? Or we can save 20 million on marketing. Xbox will pay us 20 million and we'll have 7 times the amount of people playing it out of the gate. It's simple math, guys. That's all it is.
So it seems like it's inevitable that this is going to be the thing. You guys are selling me on it. This seems like the future. I'm getting excited. But where does Sony go from here? Because every time I hear this, Ains, and I don't know business, I don't got I got a communications degree. I don't got a business degree. They say, well, Microsoft's $1 trillion company. They could throw buckets of money at, company A, B, and C, buy them out, make a deal with them on Game Pass, whatever. Sony is a $140 billion company, still fucking huge. They can't make a service.
Big? I didn't think they were that big.
I believe so. I could be mistaken.
Yes, but they've consolidated a lot of their they've shut down things like Bio and whatnot over the last 10, 15 years. That might be what you're thinking of, Ains.
Yeah.
So my question to you is can Sony actually fork over or spend that chunk of change, not just building the infrastructure, which we've seen them partner with Microsoft with their Azure servers on doing what? Who knows? Can they build something similar? Do they have that? Where does PlayStation go? Because it seems like you've backed them up into the dead end, and they're right about to get Bruce Wayne. So you tell me.
The big thing there is we've seen no evidence that they're building the true infrastructure that we would want them to in order to create a competing service, right? When they bought Gaikai a long time ago, we really thought that was going to be a streaming future. PlayStation now disappointed. Decent service in terms of catalog, in terms of connectability. However, xCloud has blown it out of the park. I mean, if any listener of this show hasn't tried xCloud on a moderate to great device, it is incredible. I'm playing it on my new tablet, and it's fantastic. Like the latency is just near gone. And that was the promise of Stadia as well. I really would have thought Sony would have linked up with Stadia to get that infrastructure, and they didn't. The problem that Sony is going to face, and they're being backed into this corner themselves, unless they're making moves quietly, which we know they're not great at communication at the moment, or choosing not to communicate. They're getting backed into a corner. They are one bad game away from really bad headlines. If God of War Ragnarok disappointed or Horizon Forbidden West is a 7.5 or a low 8, but I'm putting it up there as
sorry, they're about 80 billion, about 80. That's
80
a bigger,
billion,
way bigger number I threw out there. My apologies.
Okay. But nonetheless, I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to sound smart to the people. You are embarrassing me in front of the Wizards. Okay.
The Wizards.
The Wizards, man.
Oh, Ains, it's an Avengers reference.
Oh, you lost me. Go ahead.
Jeez. Nonetheless, one bad game away from doubt being cast on their catalog. Microsoft, you can make a bad game and it's like, it's just a Microsoft game. But if one of their heavy hitters disappoints, that puts a shadow on all of them because greatness arrived and it delivered constantly for PlayStation. So now the headline will be when it drops off, when it's not as good, because people don't think of Concrete Genie or Dreams or Killstrain or some of the other games that might have been good in their own right, but flopped, right? They don't think of that. They think of Forbidden West, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man. If one of their heavy hitters disappoints, then that panic button will start going off. Where's our infrastructure? What do we have to build for the future? How do we do this? And that's worrying because the casual fan that buys and then is disappointed by the Sony game, that changes things. That's what changes the market.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that point's very valid, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, let's be clear, I have full confidence that Forbidden West and Ragnarok are going to be amazing games.
Sure, so do I. So do I.
Yeah,
Just to be very clear.
I just didn't want people thinking we were alluding to something there. But the one interesting point, and sorry if I get a little tech nerdy on you for a second, here is that the big differentiation between Game Pass and something like Netflix, and the reason Phil Spencer himself has said he doesn't necessarily like that comparison, is because Netflix is streaming and Prime Video is streaming and HBO Max and all those are streaming services. Game Pass is not a streaming service. What it is it's a culmination of using their global footprint from a digital standpoint to allow people a pass, for lack of a better word, to the digital licensing when you buy a game. So it's very, very simple from a technical standpoint in terms of how this is licensing works, right? You have your Xbox Live profile. When you buy a game digitally, all that does is attach that game to your Live profile, right? Gives you access to it. It's a door. What Game Pass does when you have that on your profile, it basically says any game that's in this service is equivalent to you having bought it digitally, right? So then you can download it and play it locally. And xCloud's a whole different matter. xCloud's over here because that is streaming, but talking about Game Pass. So the reason I bring that up is to go back to Joe's question that you asked me of, can PlayStation create a Game Pass alternative? Technically speaking, yes, because they already have the global infrastructure where digital game purchasing is in place. We know that. In fact, a big percentage of PlayStation games are sold digitally, right? Mm-hmm. So the technical question is yes, and that is a little different from well, it's a lot different from streaming and a little different from anything to do with Azure per se. So apologize for the geekiness, but I wanted to clarify that point.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the big question is, can PlayStation at this point in time develop a Game Pass alternative that is going to somehow pick up enough steam to be productive and develop, to your other point, Joe, have enough money to throw around to secure third-party relationships for that service, rather than just timed exclusivity on the sales front, which is what they typically do. That I honestly don't know. They obviously don't have as much money as Microsoft. Nobody does. But right. I don't know what that looks like. And even if we've heard before that Spencer has said that Game Pass took like 3 to 4 years of work to build the foundational relationships, the model, the pricing, the distribution of revenue, and all these things. And I don't know where PlayStation is in that, but Jim Ryan, guys, has been pretty clear that he doesn't see this as a model that PlayStation wants to go to. Do you think that's changing?
I think Jim Ryan is full of shit.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely full of shit in many ways. But.
He says a lot of things that then end up just not like when he's like, no, crossplay, no, it's for the children. We're protecting them. It's never going to happen. And then 3 months later, look at, it breaks into Fortnite, it breaks into Rocket League, and now it's everywhere. No. So I'm with you there. It takes a long time. Now, I hate to say put your tinfoil hats on, but we chose not to cover this on the trophy room because it's just too ambiguous, I guess.
But cast co-op.
Exactly. Here, I'll toss it out there.
Here we can talk about it where we're full of crap.
Well, because you could tell me I'm full of shit, Ains, and that's the beauty of it.
I'll tell you before you bring it up. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. That they're moving
just
some
about
top
to
level.
Secure his worst title here. Go for it, buddy.
Thank you. I need to. This is the top spot. I gotta take it. That they're moving people around. I forget. I think his name's Jim Yoshida over around, or John Codera, one of the two. Name starts with a K. They're moving him around to a services like focus within Sony Corp.
It's Codera.
Codera, thank you.
Yoshida's the CEO of Sony.
Right. Sorry. So yeah, that they've moved him around to do something. We don't know what that something is. We just know his pedigree is that he's made the PlayStation Network EX, but also made services like PlayStation Plus. And I was talking about it on the Trophy Room blog one last time, I swear to God, that an excellent gauge that Sony could look at is MLB The Show and how it performs on Game Pass and how that translates to microtransactions. Because one would assume you're going to see, even on that dev level, depending on the partnership as well with Sony and MLB, what MLB does on the Xbox side in terms of sales, but also on the Game Pass side in terms of the microtransactions and downloads that game has. And PlayStation could then take a snapshot of, okay, so if everything just dies out within a month, this is obviously not worth it for us. But if they see something in a span of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they're still making buku amount of money, then maybe they can actually start honing in on what this service is for them. Because, you know, we talk about the PlayStation Now games not being PlayStation 5 upgraded, which sucks. But when the spokesperson came out, they said that PlayStation Now is a PlayStation 4 service.
Which is their old system.
Which is their
weird.
It's just weird. So
terrible thing to say.
I'm connecting dots. Maybe there is none, but I do think something's happening. I just don't think it's going to be like, you know.
So Luke, I know you've got some. Let me just go real quick. 2 points. You bring up a good point I hadn't considered, which is on MLB. Assuming now, remember, Sony's not publishing on Xbox,
right?
So I have no idea what that data arrangement likes. Those legalities in those contracts get really weird. But it stands to reason your point that PlayStation will have some insight into Game Pass figures, how many people are playing, how many people are buying microtransactions, etc. But what's going to be really interesting is this is the first game, again, remind me if I'm wrong here, that's third party launching on PlayStation and Game Pass at the same time that has microtransactions, which Outriders didn't have. So the point I was making a few minutes ago about simple numbers, this is a perfect example, because what you may see, PlayStation may sell 1.5 million copies of MLB on PS4, PS5, and do 10% microtransactions, whatever it is. But if MLB sees there's 8 million people playing it on Xbox, 10% of that are doing microtransactions, it's going to outweigh the sales figures like we talked about. That's going to be the first kind of real conversation in the background of what Game Pass can do for launching compared to sales.
Yeah, because I was thinking somewhere along the lines of Sony could have if Microsoft is the Netflix, Sony could be the Disney Plus, where like Disney Plus doesn't have as much stuff. You could say it's not even as good of a service as a Netflix. But every once in a while, there is a show that drops, whether it's a Mandalorian or a Marvel show, that everybody's kind of hooked to, glued to. Yep. And people stay subscribed to it because they know the next big thing's coming. While at the same exact time, within this subscription service, you have something, and again, I know this can't be one-to-one, but you have something like a Black Widow where, you know, yeah, this is a streaming service. I'm not getting Black Widow for free. I'm still paying for it at this $30 price tag. My thought pattern was, and me being a bad businessman was, well, what if Sony can do something that is along that Disney Plus line of thinking of, we have our older games here, our backwards compatible games, or you know, PS2, PS3, or legacy titles there. Make some indie deals here or there. Make some AA, maybe some AAA moves. And then when it comes to our exclusives, we don't necessarily, because we know the product's pure, that we could say, hey, instead of spending $70 on Returnal, it's $40 if you're this PlayStation Plus Platinum member. I think that is a good in-between, a buffer, as you will. And Sony, if you're listening, I trademarked it. Cut me a check. We can discuss after the show. But that's what my dumb brain's at.
It's not dumb. We've seen, Luke, I promise you'll get to talk here in the next 20 minutes or so.
This is the achievement hall.
All I was going to say is we've seen these in-between attempts at that. EA Play was one. EA Access, right? That was that entry-level play at this. Ubisoft Plus is a bigger play at it with a portfolio dedicated to one publisher, right? Only on PC, of course. But we've seen that. So I don't think you're far off.
All right. Okay. See, look at me, Luke. I'm pretty smart. What say you?
That's a dumb idea. Now,
Why am I the judge of what's smart? I make
You're the
mistakes all the
responsible
time.
one.
Yeah.
You're
Our
the
chat is
designated driver.
constantly- Yeah, our chat is constantly, guys, make sure you do this. And we need you to do this. We're like, yes, sir. Okay.
Drink your
Ains."
water.
Right. I'm drinking water to damn hydrate. I have a couple of thoughts there. The in-between model, I'm not sure does work. Joe, I remember we've seen at various points in the gaming industry, games will be half off for the first week they're out or something like that. And I don't know that those have paid dividends. That's anecdotal memory based, so I don't have the data in front of me, and I could be wrong. But I don't feel like that has worked to do anything other than devalue the game.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I think PlayStation Plus subscribers should get PlayStation Plus is such a good service. You have the instant game collection on PlayStation 5. That's fantastic. Something that I've advocated Games with Gold do. You have great games that enter into the service regularly, which trounce Games with Gold and make Game Pass nearly compete with Game Pass. Not quite, but it's a good service.
How about the Games with Gold April lineup, guys?
Dark Void has Troy Baker in it, guys. So there's a thing.
If that was your one selling point, you just turned me more off of it. So
I got nothing, dude.
That didn't work.
I'm not going to sell anybody Games with Gold this week.
Anyway,
nonetheless, the point I'm making is maybe simply just adding value to PlayStation Plus. Making that the thing. Raise the amount of games or cycle third-party games through your instant game collection and make that the place to be, and then discount your games. Returnal does not look like a $70 game to me. It looks like a dope game that I'm super excited to play, but $70 just feels like it needs to be Ragnarok. It just feels like that. I know, same. I'm so curious to find out this Outriders info. I want the Benji Sales tweet. I want the Kotaku article. I want the info on Outriders, because that game is, you and I like it a lot. We just started cross playing it, but you started that on Game Pass, and that we're having a ball with it. But I really want to just see the comparative numbers, because the Steam concurrents are just out of this world. But the console space is what I'm especially curious.
They were out of this world for a few days. Game's dead, man. Game's dead.
Oh, it's dead?
It's not dead. Is it dead? No, it's not. No, it's not. Is it really?
It's a dead game if Ain said it.
Oh, you know what? That's huge news. Let's put that in all caps in the title of this video.
Okay.
Really and truly, check it. If anyone's available to check it right now, go for it.
One more week.
Maybe, but I mean, they've got more packs coming to incentive to thank players for diving in. Right. They've got the 18 million potential customer base in Game Pass. I mean, that's a good thing.
Culture.
I do want to
better, but yeah, go ahead.
Anthem was more fun. Yeah, I do like Anthem a lot. I want to fight him, but I love flying around in Iron Man suit. I want to go back to this is a long past joke, but it made me think about it. You remember when you said the whole Jim Ryan, well, you can play Borderlands 3, whatnot. It's a PlayStation 4 service. That reeks of Don Matrick talking to Jeff Keighley. We've got a system for them. It's called the Xbox 360.
Oh, yeah.
And Jeff Keighley just kind of looking at him like, what are you saying? God, I would pay money for an alternate timeline where Jeff Keighley's asking Jim Ryan that question, or whoever at Sony, and he says, well, yeah, but that's a PlayStation 4 service. And he's just like, so stick with PlayStation 4, huh?
I get it. It feels corporate. He doesn't feel like a gamer. He feels disconnected from his core audience. And that, in my opinion, has never really worked well. The people, if you look at who are truly respected across the industry as like these big three leaders, you look at like Iwata, right, for Nintendo, and you look at even Reggie to a degree for Nintendo as well. You look at people like Ken Lobb or some of the people that led the Xbox 360 at the time, which really kind of came out and led that generation. Or, who is the guy? I always forget you look at, Shuhei's awesome, right? But there was the guy in the PlayStation 3 era.
Kevin
Butler.
Okay.
There you go.
So that might be him. I don't know. I couldn't remember his name. But
he was like the spokesman,
character?
like the character.
Yeah. So, he's just personable. And Sean Layden is just a personable guy. When he spoke, you wanted to sit there and you wanted to listen. Jim Ryan, he starts to speak and you're like, wow, I could really punch this guy in the face right now. I don't even know why. He hasn't offended me. I just feel like punching him in the face.
You just know, like, you just know he
doesn't wear his mask.
He doesn't wear his mask. he's in those rallies. Like, he gives me that type of vibe. He really does. It's impersonal between
and that could not be neither here nor there. But if he's not going to be the personable guy, for God's sake, stop putting him out in front. Get someone who can be the personable guy.
Put out Yoshida.
Yoshida's awesome. Everyone loves Shu.
Like, put him out there. Like, you could have someone put out Herman Hulse. He's very attractive. Put him up in there and just have him talk. Have a developer talk to gamers about games. Yeah. And I think
I'm Googling Herman Hulse right now.
Yeah, you're gonna see. You'll be like, oh wow, striking. He's striking.
I mean, he's all right.
Okay, I sense jealousy. I can. It's 2021.
It's the hair, man. It's the hair.
It's the hairline. So, like, you put someone out there. I get it, but Luke, are you bothered?
Oh, Luke's desk just went up a couple inches.
Solid 6.5.
Nonetheless, guys, I think you're right. It feels impersonal, but like getting back to the topic at hand, it is worrying.
Hello.
It is worrying as a PlayStation gamer. I'm now looking at the next 5 years going, yeah. God of War is going to be great. Horizon's going to be great. I have no doubt in my mind. Whatever Naughty Dog is going to do, it's going to be awesome, right?
Yeah.
But the deals, the service point is unmatched. And Sony needs to come out there and have just something, offer us something. And it does feel, when we're talking about PlayStation now, it does feel very like,
it feels old.
It feels old. But at the same exact time, when Jim Ryan's like, listen, this Game Pass model is not us, but wait a year. We have something for you in the next year. So I'm hoping that's what it is, but it is a worrying sign, because at the end of the day, the thing that I don't want, it's an irrational fear because it will probably never happen, is that we have
Bloodborne 2.
Fuck you. We have that lopsidedness yet again, where it's just like the market leader is just, it is what it is. And there's no innovation at that point because there's no competition, and it just builds stagnation. And that's the thing that I'm kind of fearful of. And I know I sound like, the typical PlayStation gamer is like, yeah, Game Pass is great now, but wait till
what
it's
happens when
30
those 23 studios make games.
Exactly. And that's the other thing, is like, just wait until all these studios are making games. And I get it. You hear that in a lot of Xbox shows, but honestly, from a PlayStation guy, and I don't even care that much about Bethesda, wait until all those games are starting to just.
That's what I mean. This is the beginning.
Yeah.
This is the beginning.
And if I'm Sony, I'm like, okay, I got time, start the meter, but I don't got much. So let's get something out here.
I do think you're right. To go back all the way to your original question of, does Sony need something? I think the answer is yes. And I would agree with you. It doesn't have to be Game Pass, but they need something. They can't be, the model they have today, as good as PS Plus is, and I think many of us have talked about how good PS Plus is, but to think it's not being outshined greatly by Game Pass, which is only going to get better, as we keep saying, they can't rely on that for the next years to come.
One last question, mini question. I got this thread on the Twitter. That's what the kids call it. Why doesn't Nintendo get the same flack? They don't have their own service.
They do from me, but I'm one person who means nothing. No,
I've talked about this at length. I know I've talked about it on Bitcasts before, on many different shows.
Well,
they trade in nostalgia. They make great games often. They're not all of them are heavy hitters, but they trade in nostalgia and they market to a completely different group. They are forgiven based on their IP. Sony is forgiven a little bit less because their IP is strong. Xbox's IP is so weak, they can be forgiven for nothing. Right now, Microsoft has to earn back the goodwill. But when you buy most Nintendo games, you're getting a quality title. I don't advocate that approach. I don't like the Nintendo approach. I barely touched my Switch, even after rebuying some of the Mario stuff. I don't play it. I'm disappointed with the tech. I'm disappointed with a lot of aspects of it. Breath of the Wild 2 might be a reason for me to boot it back up. But even then, it feels dated now compared to when it was. They're trading in just different currency than PlayStation and Xbox. And that's okay. But to say they don't get flack is a misnomer. They do get flack. They get a lot of flack. It's a matter of where you are, the ecosystem that you're curating on your socials. And who cares? I don't care about Nintendo stuff one bit anymore. I just don't. Unless you're making Mario Strikers or Metroid, make something new.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that the gaming market is so vast. And many of us have made this point. If one does good, does well, it doesn't mean the other's dead. The gaming market is so vast that the Nintendo audience is just a completely different market. It's a completely different market. The people like us, the people probably listening to this show, are Xbox and or PlayStation gamers and or PC gamers. The Switch, the Switch is either not owned or it's their secondary or third system. And that's just a matter of fact, because the nostalgia thing is huge, but it's a different market, and the market's big enough for Nintendo to do that. And the other brilliant thing Nintendo did was, when they had the Switch and they effectively created the portable console, they wound down the 3DS and they merged those markets.
Yeah.
And that market is now one. And people say, how the hell is this thing selling so well? It's reality, because to the Nintendo fan base, they're selling two systems as one.
Give that 7 years, xCloud is going to trump it. xCloud is good now.
That's the thing that I think about too, as infrastructure hopefully maybe gets better and we make, maybe internet like a human right over here. Like if we, I know, fucking craziness.
It's wild
broadband
ideas
in rural areas, but like,
good Lord,
if we could get to that place, then even Nintendo's kind of not that safe as well, one would assume. Again, we're not in that ecosystem. Look, like Nintendo's like Thanos, it's not even fucking phased by anything. But like, to me, it was like, if you could get cloud gaming to work in the United States, and you can have that, if you can have xCloud on the go, you could be playing Gears on the go on the bus, then yeah, I kind of think there's going to be a point where
on the bus.
On the public transportation. I'm on my light rail.
But I'll tell you, back when kids were going to school, in downtime, I would see them on their phones playing Fortnite. I would see them on their phones playing Minecraft. Yeah. All it is a matter of being able to launch. Latency is less an issue. If I could play Streets of Rage 4 with touch controls and it work well, that's cool. Yeah. It's just time. 7-8 years from now, Nintendo's in a world of hurt technology-wise unless they adapt. And that's when you start to see those crazy things. Sega publishing games on Nintendo. We'll start to see one of those more crazy things. We've already kind of got the show kind of thing talking here. Game Pass on a PlayStation TV, a PlayStation system, a PlayStation anything is not far off. It's just not. And that's great. That is so good. Right now, Joe started Outriders on Xbox. Now he's playing on PlayStation. Trophies. He could have played the Republic Commando game, enhanced for X, 4K boosts, all that stuff on Xbox for years. But he got that plat.
So you're buying games you could play not for free, but as part of your service. You're buying those for trophies.
Because I'm an idiot. Yes.
Well, no, I don't think you are. And
I do.
I mean, you're the worst, but like Joe, I would do the same thing. I would.
What is it? Amazon Luna.
Yeah, that's true.
That.
He has
canceling it right now.
Has zero clout to stand on. What are you going to play over there?
I bet you I can't even find how to cancel it.
Yeah. I bet you they're like, what are you talking about? Luna? Yeah. Probably don't even have a
What's
webpage
a Luna?
Yeah. But I get that. I would buy a game to get achievements instead of trophies because I'm invested in it. That gamer score represents my gaming history, just as Joe's trophy score does the same thing. Man, Ains is really trying to cancel this thing right now.
I honestly thought of a skit in my mind of like Ains reaching out on Twitter to Jeff Bezos going, hey, how do I cancel my Alexa thing? And Jeff Bezos goes, oh, what's an Alexa? Wait, just wait 1 second. Get back to work.
So right at the top, when you go to profiles, cancel orders or digital stuff, cancel music unlimited, cancel or manage Kindle stuff, cancel Prime Video, everything but Luna.
I'm telling you, they're not even sure they have that program anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me rope in a question from last week's episode to close out for this week. Addie Alusi, and Addie, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, says, guys, just thinking about the discussion at the tail end of the cast, the value of games. Do you think subscription services like Game Pass will revamp the review of games, especially because of the way that we are beginning to value games? So there's a lot to break down in there, but does Game Pass, does the competitor for Game Pass, whatever that materializes to be, does that change how we expect games to be reviewed? I'm going to go first. I do not think it changes the way that we score or we think of scores for games, but it does change how much those scores matter to us in terms of purchasing or playing. Many people with a subscription service will download and try a game if it's within their subscription, even if it's not 100% for them. It's not something they would buy out the gate, but they are willing to try it. I certainly value games very differently now. I've always been somebody who enjoyed swimming in sevens. That said, it doesn't pain me to see a 7 and know that it's going to Game Pass nearly the way it once did. Joe, let's go to you on this one, and then Ains can continue trying to figure out. It's Luna, Ains. Luna.
I'm getting there.
Luna. What a great question. I think it's going to change not how we. I think how we review games is what a fantastic question. I think back to my friend Sean Capri when he was on the Trophy Room 2 weeks ago, saying the great thing about Game Pass is it eliminates the price barrier in terms of, like, you're not talking about a game saying this is a good $20 game or this is a good $40 game. You're now just saying this is a good game. And I think that's the barrier it really gets rid of, is you're not looking at it with the price tag. You're just looking at it as is. And I'm very curious of how game development changes because of Game Pass, how games are going to look like in the future because of Game Pass, because devs are going to get to see where people stop off or where people get stuck on. So yeah, a great question. I think it's going to change just the way we view games.
Yeah. So I would say two things. First, thank you for the question. So going back to what Luke said at the start of the show, definitely write in. Let us know your questions, what you want us to talk about, because we'll be happy to do that. Second, I didn't hear either of your answers because I was looking at how to cancel my goddamn Luna. I did find
really
it.
a lesson. Don't buy Luna.
I did find it. I spent, I don't know how much over the past several months, probably like a price of a full game. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So the question, value of games, revamp the review of games, I think is an interesting one. And, as someone who manages a site who reviews games, we're on Open Critic, we're part of that kind of structure that is counted in that, Open Critic scoring, as we all know. We have a lot of games we've reviewed now, I would say, that have been on Game Pass. In fact, our review for Outriders from Steve, who's taken a long time because he has a lot of thoughts about it, is playing it via Game Pass for his review. I would say, at least from my perspective, it shouldn't change the way we think about reviews, because at the end of the day, a game releasing on Game Pass is the same as anywhere else. You can still buy that game. The game's not fundamentally different because it's on Game Pass. Yeah. It's still a game you can purchase. You can buy digitally. If you have Game Pass, you can buy it at a discount, of course, or you can buy it on other platforms like Outriders. And so I think the review process shouldn't be changed by that. Whether or not it will is a whole different question, and I don't know. But my opinion would be it shouldn't. We should still fundamentally review games as if their value is no different. It's still the same amount of developmental effort for a company to make that game. That's my thought. Awesome. I'm not even joking. I didn't hear fully your guys' responses, so I don't know how that lines up with what both of you said.
It pretty much lines up with me. That's fine. That's okay. We're both.
I didn't listen to Joe's either, so I was like, all right.
Fair.
But I did cancel Luna, guys. I did.
All right, that's good.
That's good. That's good.
I didn't have Stadia.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a different topic for a different show. But I will say to all the listeners, thank you guys for showing up, supporting the show, and joining us on episode 2 of Cast Co-op. Mr. Ainsley Bowden, who loves when I say his name in its entirety. Ains, let people know where they should be looking for you on the socials if you have any fun projects coming up. And yeah, that's it. Yep, let them know.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Was this? By the way, I forgot to ask you. In all seriousness, before I do that, are you broadcasting from Vault 110 or 101 tonight?
Hey, Ains.
Got him.
Hey, Ains.
Got him.
I know where that 30% that said you were the worst coming from now. I get it. I'm with all of them. I'm changing my vote. I'm changing my vote.
Hashtag 18. No, you know where you can find me. Season Gaming. We have actually not this Saturday, as you're listening to this, not this current weekend, but next weekend's our the Big Cast 150, which is kind of cool. Neat little milestone. We're actually revamping some of our graphics, our intro, a few other things. So, and we should have some guests that people love seeing on as well. So it should be really fun.
So safe bet Luke's not going to be there.
Did you get an invite, Joe? Because I sure didn't.
No, I did not.
We'll talk about this offline. There's a reason.
There's a reason.
Okay. Yeah.
It's in 2 days. He's like,
you're gonna break the news. Well,
we're breaking it live. We're doing it live. But in all seriousness, just echoing what Luke said. Thank you guys. It's been cool. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on the show. We honestly, I'm speaking for myself. I don't want to speak for these guys because I don't really speak that language. It's a Breakfast Club joke, dude. I'm old.
Oh, okay.
I didn't expect to see the response at the level we did for that first episode. And it's great to see so many people checking it out. And thank you so much. It means a lot. We have a lot of fun doing this. These guys are great as much as I give them crap. And as much as Luke looks like a Fallout Boy, it's still a lot of fun doing the show. So thank you. That's what I want to say. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for us on Apple,
we don't know. We can't figure it out.
There's some serious problems with trying to connect our audio to Apple. I showed these guys the other day. It's literally impossible. Literally.
It just cycles us in and out.
You can't log in. You can't contact support. You can't do anything. So if you're looking for us on Apple, it's not us. It's them. If you want to write to them and tell them how bad they suck. Actually, of the three of us, Apple sucks the most.
Yeah.
Where's my
could we be exclusive to Spotify and audio? Maybe we should do that.
But if you are watching this, we now are on Spotify, Amazon, and Google. So we are out there if you want to listen to us in audio, and we appreciate that as well.
Yeah. Hopefully in the coming week or two, we'll have everything sorted out. It's always a problem with getting the first episode out is always the hardest for so many reasons. One of them being Apple just being so weird. But after that, then it's usually smooth breezing or cruising or whatever.
Smooth breezing.
Fuck me.
This is the guy that gets to do the outro. This is really
yeah.
Right. Joseph Moran, what do you got coming up in the next 2 weeks of the trophy room?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Just like PlayStation, he doesn't want to communicate.
Exactly.
Yeah. We don't know what they're going to announce. Tell people where they can find you, brother. Oh, you're just going to sit there. You can find them at PS Trophy Room on Twitter.
No, stop it. Stop it. Knock it off. This is my thing. You can find the Trophy Room each and every Thursday where me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest and greatest in all things PlayStation each and every Thursday. You find us on Apple Podcasts, unlike this show, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, you can find the show there, and on YouTube at the Trophy Room Show. And Luke sucks.
Did you give a Twitter handle?
At Mr. Badbit, at PS Trophy Room, and I will make an @ where it's at Luke sucks, and I'm gonna make that now.
You should have made it before you said it.
It's a Volt Boy.
Okay, yourself. All right. The Xbox
Jesus,
expansion pass.
Dark.
The Xbox expansion pass has several interviewed guests coming up. Scott Brody is making an ID at Xbox game and a Steam Early Access game called We Are the Caretakers. That interview will be up on Monday. I'm speaking to Limited Run Games next week, so the following week, hopefully I'll be talking to them about game preservation, why their games, their hard physical copy games, do not come to Xbox, but they're on PlayStation and Switch. We'll cover that as well. And down the line, there's more stuff happening, which is pretty darn cool. You can find me on Twitter at InsipidGhost. You can find the show youtube.com/Xbox Expansion Pass and on all podcast services, including Apple. Joseph Moran, do you want to do the outro?
Everybody, I want to just say thank you all so much for just listening to the show.
I know it's coming.
I have made the Twitter handle.
I was wondering what you were doing. I'm like, what's he doing?
And keep casting.
Keep casting co-op for some dumb thing you said.
Co-op. Oh no, it's keep
oh, shut up.
Casting that co-op.
That's it. That's the one.